Biden has decided to step down. He's not running for presidency. He has a legacy in the Middle East. I think some people are happy to see him go, but I think some people are missing him too. I thought in this segment we could unpack who's going to miss him and who's happy to see him go.
Yeah. Again, I think we need to remind everybody, and this is Ink and Blood, and this is our 5th series, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I don't think many people in the Middle East, especially after the war in Gaza, would have some sympathy toward the president of the United States, Joe Biden. What do you think?
I mean, I think the Kurds are going to miss him. I think Joe Biden himself says that he's more popular in Israel than in America. So a lot of people are unhappy with the war in Gaza, and his image may have suffered there. But I think, Erdogan is probably happy to see him go because he didn't get along well with Joe Biden. Joe Biden did not invite Erdogan to the White House. Joe Biden did not visit Turkey during his 4 years in the presidency. I think as far as the Arab countries are concerned, I mean, Iran probably would prefer Joe Biden to Donald Trump. And the Arab countries, Trump and his son-in-law had good relations with some of the Arab countries, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, but Saudi Arabia. But I think overall, Joe Biden was predictable. Joe Biden was, they could count on him. So I think he'll be missed. That's at least my impression of him.
Well, I don't think he will be missed. I mean, in the Middle East, first of all, how I know Joe Biden, I think maybe our audiences also would want to hear a few things about the American politics. Maybe we can do it toward the end. But I think since we're discussing the Middle East and from that perspective, how I knew Joe Biden was that his reaction to Serbian attack against Bosnians in 1990s and the Bosnian massacre or genocide in Sarajevo, right? So it was Joe Biden, we knew it, and he was an vocal advocate for Bosnians and Muslims at the time, and everybody was, appreciative of Joe Biden at this time. And this is how I got to know this man. And since then, I've been following him. In 1990s, of course, there was, I believe, he has been in politics since 1970s onward. But ironically, Joe Biden got sympathy from the Muslim world because he was criticizing Serbian genocide. But now, at the end of his career, he is ending his career with another claim of the genocide, this time against Muslims in Gaza. Given the fact that Muslims are, have short memories about even their own history, their own, things, I don't think even you can find anybody in Bosnia or Kosovo who would like Joe Biden in these days because of his full support toward Israel. So therefore, I don't know, even the Kurds, except few elites or politically motivated Kurds, I don't think that many of Kurds even would see Biden stay.
Well, I mean, of all American leaders who have occupied the White House, I would say two have been aware of the Kurds. Woodrow Wilson, who had his 14 points for America to join the First World War, and he wanted to make the world safe for democracy, and he advocated self-determination for subject peoples. The Algerians loved him, the Czechs loved him, the Poles loved him. The Kurdish political group wasn't as big in 1920s. A lot of Kurds were probably not aware of him, but the ones who were following politics, I think, appreciated the fact that he was advocating self-determination for subject peoples. The other president is Joe Biden, and he has been a friend of the Kurds, I would say, especially in 2006. He wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times, and he advocated for a three-part solution partitioning of Iraq: Kurds in the north, Sunnis in the middle, and Shiites in the south. It got a lot of traction. The Council on Foreign Relations president, whose name I'm forgetting now, praised him. And in 2008, Obama came to the White House, but Joe Biden wasn't able to follow his pet project in terms of giving political space for the Kurds. In 2017, the Kurds in Iraq, as you know, voted for a referendum. It was on Trump's watch, and Trump and his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, basically said, it's better for the sake of stability in the region, it's better not to recognize this referendum, and they were against it. But I think if Biden was in the White House, the Kurds might have had a better reception in the State Department, in the White House. But so overall, I would say Barzani had a good relationship with Joe Biden. Joe Biden invited him to the when he was on the Massachusetts Avenue house as a vice president. He had Masoud Barzani at his house for breakfast. According to Ben Rhodes, the Deputy National Security Advisor in the Obama administration, Joe Biden knows the names of the grandchildren of Masoud Barzani. That when he was in Hawler in Erbil, he met them. He held them in his arms. So that relationship is important for Kurds. I think they'll miss him. But the war in Gaza has definitely cast some shadows on his legacy relative to the massive human rights violations that are taking place, the genocide that's taking place in Gaza as we speak, even today.
Okay. I mean, when it comes to, let me talk a little bit about his relationship with Erdogan. During Obama era, he was very close to Erdogan. And in fact, he visited Erdogan in his house after Erdogan got surgery from the house. And therefore, Erdogan was very hopeful about Joe Biden when he got elected, especially after Donald Trump. And perhaps because of this relationship, what has happened there is Erdogan is disappointed. And lastly, in this month, Erdogan was expecting Joe Biden to meet with him during the NATO summit, right? And he was first invited in last June to White House after so many years. Erdogan actively lobbied to meet with Joe Biden in White House, and he sent his top advisor to Washington, D.C., and his top advisor spent 2 months in Washington, around Washington, when Joe Biden got elected in 2020, and he was very hopeful that Joe Biden accept him, but Joe Biden did not, because just like Obama, Joe Biden had a big disappointment in Erdogan. I'm sure you remember Obama's article in Atlantic that he was saying that he was seeing Erdogan as a model, but he openly stated that Erdogan is one of his disappointment. I think Joe Biden shared this perspective. Therefore, he did not share. And also, what I noticed that Joe Biden is a president of status quo, right? And all these institutions, simply he follows the advice comes from all these institutions, especially from State Department, CIA, Pentagon, and all others. Donald Trump was not like this. And Donald Trump was just following his instinct, and he had some sympathy toward, of course, authoritarian rulers. So there is a distinct differences. Therefore, many people in Turkey, because of their relationship, the Biden's relationship with Erdogan, would be happy to see Biden is gone. For the oppositions, I mean, if you think that opposition party, I think opposition parties in Turkey are very much anti-American, and they don't care and they don't have any preference over who will be the president. But whether you like it or not, American president affect especially countries like Turkish politics and how Turkey will react to Syria and all other areas. So I think regardless of where your political stance in Turkish politics, everybody, I think, would be seeing Donald Trump happy. What do you think?
Well, I would say,
I mean, Joe Biden.
if you want to say, I would say if you want to look at this relationship between Erdogan and Biden, you have to point to two breaking points. One was in 2014, if my memory serves me right, he gave a talk at Harvard University, and he told the students that, the biggest problem the Obama administration was having with the Middle East was with Erdogan, because Erdogan was using the border between Turkey and Syria as a way station had turned it into a jihadi highway. A lot of these ISIS sympathizers were coming to Turkey, crossing into Syria, and then joining ISIS or joining Jabhat al-Nusra. And the fact that he was so candid, the Obama administration forced him to actually apologize to Erdogan, because Erdogan wanted kind of this to be, secret, didn't want this to be public knowledge. The other thing was in 2020, Joe Biden openly said he wants to see democracy in Turkey. He thought Erdogan was an authoritarian leader, and he preferred that Americans would support, the opposition and have Erdogan, be gone. That's before he came to the White House in 2020, when he was in opposition. And Erdogan didn't like that, of course. But during his time in office, I would say he kept Erdogan at arm's length. He didn't really, enjoy his company. He knew Erdogan was like authoritarian, was gravitating towards Putin, was gravitating towards Hungarian leader Orban or the Chinese leader. So I don't think Erdogan is going to miss Biden going. I think he's happy. I don't know if he tweeted something, but if he did, if he wanted to be honest with himself, he would say, good riddance. I'm happy you're gone. As far as the new dynamic, Kamala Harris, I think she will continue Biden's legacy. She will try to, if she gets elected, she will try to say that that the American government stands for supporting democracies, and that relations with Turkey are important, but that Turkish leaders themselves are not acting democratic, that they are moving their country towards authoritarianism, towards Iran, towards Russia, towards China, towards Hungary, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want this conversation to revolve around Turkey, but I also wanted to just add something that, as you know, that Erdogan proposed an offer to Assad, Syrian President Assad, to normalize its relationship, even meet in Turkey with families and all others, and as if nothing happened in the last 10 years. I think the reason why he calculates this and the reason why Erdogan rushed into the normalization of his relationship with Assad is because he's expecting Donald Trump to be elected in Washington and hoping that he can really benefit of Donald Trump if he's elected in Syria by kicking the American soldiers out, because Donald Trump has been arguing, as you know, that we have no place in the Middle East. Why are we staying there? And Donald Trump previously stated that Kurds, fought for us, but we pay them, and so on, so on and so forth. I think with this mentality and hoping that Donald Trump simply will pull out American troops from Syria if he's elected, and once that happens, and he needs his relationship with Assad to be normal so that he can actually end the Rojava experiment in Syria. And therefore, he is very much into the expectation that Donald Trump will win. And if Biden stays there, I don't think, or Kamala Harris, I don't think they will pull out American troops. I think 1,000 or 2,000 American troops there, but it's not significant, but it is something for the Kurds. What do you think about this? If Biden goes or Donald Trump comes, and do you think that they will pull the U.S. troops out from Rojava?
Well, I think American administrations, especially Democratic ones, like Obama and Biden, they feel like the Kurds, shed their blood. They invested in this American project to get rid of ISIS. 11,000 Kurds and Arabs died in the fight to get rid of ISIS. 26,000 Kurds and Arabs got injured. If Trump comes to power, I think Erdogan may have a chance. The experiment called Rojava could actually go down the drain. But I think when Erdogan says, I am ready to welcome Assad to Ankara or go visit him in Damascus, I think that's more, working with the Arab, with Assad to see if him and Assad could get rid of Rojava together. But I will say for the last 13 years, there's this, area called Rojava or Syrian Democratic Forces, Eastern Euphrates. This has been there for 13 years. It's kind of been self-rule. And this experience cannot be forgotten. I mean, yes, they can come and suppress it. Let's say get rid of the leadership, the military force that is there. But I think for the 13 years, these people have been free. I think what the Kurdish leadership in Syria wants, at the end of the day, I think they may be happy to have an autonomous region the way they have it in Iraqi Kurdistan. So this area could be, Syrian Kurdistan. It could be part of Damascus, but it could still be, Kurdish schools could be free. Kurdish police could be, patrolling the streets. So I think that would be the goal. But if Trump comes, I have said it before, both Ukraine and Rojava, could be up for grabs because of Trump, not because of Ukraine or not because of Rojava.
Yeah. What about Iran? I mean, let's talk about Iran. I think Iran, especially the Republicans or Proud Boys and all others, have been accusing Joe Biden simply giving Iran billions of dollars. I think they're specifically stating that they have given $6 billion to release some of the hostages, and that emboldened Iranian reactions and Iranian influence in the region. And Iran think that under Joe Biden or Democrats, Americans will not do anything against Iran, and therefore Iran would prefer Joe Biden to stay and they don't want Donald Trump to come to power. And this is the assumption from especially in the Republican conservative cycle. What do you think about this assumption that
Yeah.
Joe Biden helped Iran?
Well, the money was not America's money to be given to Iran. The money was Iranian money that was frozen in American banks or in South Korea, and then it was given back to Iran. Did Iran use that money to arm Houthis in Yemen and arm Hamas in Palestine and Hezbollah in Lebanon? Yeah, I think it could be. One could make the argument that some of that money was used, for support these groups. Iran has region-wide aspirations. Iran has a hegemonic point of view and wants to dominate the region. I think it's a source of instability. I don't think. I think Iranians would love to have a Democratic candidate in the White House. They do not like Trump. They lost Qasem Soleimani to Trump with a drone attack. Qasem Soleimani was killed. But in the long run, in the long run, if Iranian leadership values, let's say, normalization of relations and wants to interact with America and wants to interact with Western Europe, have the temperature lowered, the fever lowered, it could do that. But I think it has to, stop supporting groups like Hamas and reining in on the groups like Hezbollah, because America is not going to give up on Israel. America has openly said, it wants to support Israel, and it's supporting Israel. I could see America going to war for the sake of Israel too. I don't think they're going to let Israel be attacked by Iran or by Hezbollah or by Hamas.
Yeah, also, I wanted to remind everybody that many of those who think that Joe Biden is soft on Iran, and it was Obama era in 2008 to 2009 under Joe Biden. Joe Biden was vice president, and United States put heavy sanction on Iran to bring Iran on the table for the nuclear negotiation, and it was successful, I think. And Iran signed a deal, and when Donald Trump came to power in 2016, and he just simply threw all that deal into the river, and it is washed away. And therefore, now analysts suggest that Iran is weeks away from developing a nuclear weapon. So if Donald Trump comes to the power, do you think that Iran will finally pursue nuclear weapon and declare that it is a nuclear state?
Well, I don't think you could stop the development of science. I think Iran eventually will become a nuclear power. Pakistan is a nuclear power. Israel is a nuclear power. The fact that you have nuclear weapons doesn't mean you are going to use them. Since 1945, we know that, like during the Cold War, the Soviets and the Americans managed to, even though they didn't have good relations, they had a Cold War, but they did not fire these weapons on, at each other. At the end of the day, I would say if Iran, behaves like a state as opposed to a cause, it could eventually the world might come to accept the fact that it has nuclear weapons. The problem, I think, is when Iran acts like a cause. It decides when it wants to, dominate the region, speak for Islam or Shiite Islam, and then that becomes a source of instability. Because most of the world wants Iran to act like a state. They don't want Iran to act like a cause.
Yeah, I mean, what about Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Do you think that they, especially Egyptian leader, happy that Joe Biden is gone?
Uh, I Yeah, I think Sisi and Trump got along really well, and Trump said Sisi is a good friend. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Biden was kind of okay with Sisi there. He didn't really, let's say, impose sanctions. Even Turkey, the country that you and I know better, I have never seen, Biden saying that Kavala should be free or Demirtas should be free.
Yeah.
Maybe folks at the State Department are pushing for it, but they're not making it public. And I think, as Human Rights Watch says, naming and shaming is important. Meaning, like, shaming a country and pointing out that and giving a name to that country is important. I mean, I think Biden was more for status quo. I mean, and I think Trump is going to be more for. There could be more trouble ahead in terms of whether Iran and the U.S. fight each other because of Israel, or whether America joins, let's say, punishes Yemen even more than it punishes Yemen now. I mean, I think if Kamala Harris or whoever is the Democratic contender comes to power, we may have more calmness in the region. But if Trump comes, I think we may have more wars and we may have more instability. At least that's my reading of the situation is.
Yeah, I mean, I think under Trump era, Egypt was not so relevant. Egypt considered itself as the gateway to the Arab world, even greater Africa. And however, since the coup took place in 2013, Sisi came, and in this time period, and a lot has changed after Arab Spring and so on and so forth. When Donald Trump came and he put emphasis and importance on Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates as the second, and it kind of sidelined Egypt. But after this Gaza, October 7, terrorism, and the Israeli massacre toward the Gazans, I think Egypt once again become a key actor, and Egypt is the negotiator and facilitating these negotiation. Qatar, Egypt, and sideline, of course, Turkey and Turkey's aspiration over there. And if Donald Trump comes, I think Egypt's role will be changed depending on how he approached to the issue in Gaza. As we know, Donald Trump has openly has threatened people in Gaza if Hamas does not accept the deal that he is going to put on the table, and they will face the worst. I don't know what worse could it be in Gaza, but I think under Biden administration, Egypt's importance once again become something in the Middle East, especially within the context of Gaza, and it pushed a little bit Saudi Arabia behind under Joe Biden. And under Donald Trump, of course, Saudi Arabia and Saudi king was the king actually, and he was so happy to see. I think that I never forget that scene that Donald Trump visited Saudi Arabia with that crystal ball, and he was looking the future. I'm glad that crystal ball did not show a bright future for Donald Trump, especially in 2020. But yeah, this is happening. I think Saudi Arabia will once again become permanent. I think Saudis would be happy to see Joe Biden is gone.
Yeah, Saudis would prefer Donald Trump. Any country that doesn't care about democracy would prefer Donald Trump. I mean, democracy used to be part of the discussion in the Middle East, but with the rise of ISIS and with the discrediting of the Arab Spring, with the consolidation of power in Damascus under Assad, I think people are after stability. They don't want refugees. They don't want, and if that means authoritarian systems, fine. Authoritarian systems can stay in the Middle East. But I don't think authoritarian systems can deliver stability. I mean, I think we live in a very unique time called the internet age. I think people have aspirations. They want to be treated with dignity, with decency, with basic human rights. And when they don't have those, for example, in Turkey, there's brain drain. You know, many of the best doctors, many of the best scientists, many of the best engineers in Turkey where are they now? They're in Berlin. They're coming to America. So I mean, I think you know, a country like America that has such an influence in the world, it would be a pity that if that influence is not used towards, you know, calming the situation and making it okay for, you know, democratic aspirations. But if we go just for security and a big stick, I don't really see stability in the horizon. I think we're going to see more chaos and more refugees and more war and more refugees even at the U.S.-Mexican border.
Yeah. Overall, as we're at the end of the time, overall, in the last 30 years, if you wanted to give grade to Joe Biden, what grade would you prefer to give?
Yeah. Well, I like his candor. I liked his candor. I liked his support of the Kurds. I liked his hope for democratic change. I liked the fact that he was didn't like wars. You know, he was always saying, yes, security is important, but we don't need to have an army like in Afghanistan. We don't need to have an army in Iraq. So overall, I would give him a B or a B plus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. When you think of overall, I mean, if I see him only his performance without any context, without any, you know, relationship, yeah, maybe B minus would be good. But in relations to other developments, of course, when you're a leader, when you're not free and you have to calculate many things and make a decision, I think there are terrible decisions he has made. As you mentioned, Afghanistan was one of them. I mean, United States should have, you know, withdrawn from Afghanistan, but not the way that he has done. And also his dealing with Netanyahu, I think, and his support of massacres in Gaza, and kind of he is much better than Obama's foreign policy, to be honest. Much better than Donald Trump, I think. But overall, he has a dent in his career, and I think, unfortunately, I like this guy. Especially, I still remember it was so painful for me to watch genocide was taking place in Balkans right after the Cold War, and I was so optimistic, and democracy was coming, and everybody was talking about democracy, and he was the champion of democracy. I wish he had that memory as a legacy, but I think this Gaza is a big dent in his legacy, and therefore I think I would give him C, not B. But yeah, overall, I don't know if we can find a leader to give him C from now on. We don't know the performance, how will the performance of next Democratic president if is elected. But yeah, that's my grade.
I'll just add that Bosnians did appreciate his performance and appreciated his politics. I would say the Kurds similarly liked him, just like the Bosnians did. In Bosnia, it was the Serbians who were oppressing the Bosnians. In the Middle East, it was Saddam and his cronies who were gassing the Kurds. And people like Biden spoke up, and that says a lot. So I stick to my B.
Okay. Thank you, Kanye. I will see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay.